We're here for the Young Professionals Network series. I'm Dan Clark, a reporter for the New York Law Journal. I'm a litigation reporter. So we're here today to talk about bar associations and young attorneys. Why do we see young attorneys not joining as many bar associations as we did in years past? So to kick things off, I have 5 guests with me, 3 young attorneys, 2 bar association leaders, and we're going to go right down the line to have some introductions. So Chris, go right ahead.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Boneg. I'm an associate at Boneg & Associates, and recently a member of the New York City Bar Association since August of this year.
And Craig?
Hi, I'm Craig Convasar. I'm a litigation associate at Catton Mushin Rosenman, and I am on the board of Legal, which is the LGBT Bar Association of Greater New York.
Hi, I'm Lauren Sharkey. I practice elder law in upstate New York and at a firm called Choppy, Slezak, Wilgerby, and I am a part of the New York Bar Association. I'm the Young Lawyers Chair.
I'm Hank Greenberg. I'm the president of the New York State Bar Association. I'm also a shareholder with Greenberg Traurig.
Hi, I'm Roger Maldonado. I am a litigation partner at Smith, Gambrell & Russell, and I am the president of the New York City Bar Association.
So just to start off, I know you guys said it a little bit in your intro, but tell me about what bar associations you're currently involved with and how many years that you've actually been practicing law. And we'll just go down the line with the 3 attorneys here.
Sure. So for me, since graduating from Georgetown Law in May, and I believe it was August, maybe it was a week after I sat for the July bar, but I joined the New York City Bar Association, and I'm also a member of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association, the National Employment Lawyers Association, NELA NY, which is the New York chapter of the National Employment Lawyers Association, and and those are the ones that I'm a member of. Those are 4, 3 of them.
So I graduated law school in 2011, so I guess I'm my 8th year as an attorney, although I haven't spent all that time practicing. I am currently a member on the board of Legal, as I said, the LGBT Bar Association of Greater New York. I've been on the board for just under a year now, although I've been involved with Legal for some time before that, and I spent 3 years on the LGBT Rights Committee of the City Bar as well.
So I also graduated in 2011, so I've been practicing for about 8 years. When I graduated, I immediately joined the Capital District Women's Bar Association, the Schenectady County Bar Association, American Bar Association, and the New York State Bar Association. And I've been mostly active with the New York State Bar Association in their elder law section and also their young lawyer section since I graduated. And on the local level, I'm also active in the Schenectady County Bar Association.
So what I'm really interested in is, because you 3 seem to be the exception to the rule, is what we've seen. So can you tell me a little bit about why you've decided to join these bar associations when your colleagues may be more hesitant to do so?
Yeah, so I'll start. To me, one of the big motivations was I heard a lot about the legal community, right? From professors, from other attorneys, older attorneys, but I didn't really know what that looked like. So one of the big motivations was to actually find something that I can join that was actually a manifestation of the quote-unquote legal community. And the New York City Bar Association was the first one that I looked into, and it seemed to offer a lot of benefits to joining, be a member. For my purposes, the big point of emphasis was the small law firm piece, right? And just a couple weeks ago, I attended the Small Law Firm Symposium, and since joining, I've been able to get to go see to go in person for CLEs, right, at the association, and I think that a combination of all those things is what drew me to it initially, and I'm finding that I think it was a good decision, right, off the bat, and I'm interested to see how I'm able to get more involved and what other things they might have to offer for me as I grow in my career.
So Craig, I'm interested as well so we see these specialized bar associations like Legal. So I'm interested in why there's value in joining something like that.
Sure. So I joined, I guess, the LGBT Bar Association of Greater New York as a board member, primarily to give back to the community. It provides a really easy way for people to get involved and to attend all different kinds of events, be they educational or advocacy. We put together a group to march in the Pride Parade every year. We offer all different kinds of programming, CLEs. We coordinate volunteering at a legal clinic at the LGBT Center in Chelsea. I was always very involved in the community, all throughout law school, and obviously pro bono is one way to kind of give back, but having the backing of kind of a larger organization that has resources to plug you into all different kinds of areas is really valuable.
So, Warren, one unique thing that you have is being part of this smaller bar association, Capital District Women's Bar.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the value in that some attorneys may not recognize when they graduate law school?
Well, a little bit more about me. My law
Sure.
firm is pretty much all female. We have 25 employees and only one male employee. So for us, for my firm, it's really important that we support women centralized initiatives like the Capital District Women's Bar Association. They have different mentoring programs for young lawyers that we find really important. Just the different programming that they have available. I hesitate because some people in my firm are more active in it than others. But as a firm, we support membership of all of our associates. So I personally am not very active in that bar, but I've been consistently a member because we support its mission.
So I want to get Roger and Hank in here, and specifically Roger, one of our stories recently said that your bar association had a jump in membership over the past year. I know that you said this in the story, but how did you do it, and do you think you can keep it going?
The article that you're referring to referenced the free CLE that the City Bar has been offering since last August to several categories of lawyers, including young lawyers. So someone who is not yet admitted or someone who has been admitted and is 2 years out is entitled to 4 credits worth, as much CLE as they want for 4 credits or less, but also including Bridge the Gap, and as much online CLE as you want. And that has been very attractive to many young lawyers. We also offer that same package to government lawyers, persons in not-for-profits, judges, their staff, academics. So it's basically most people other than those who are in law firms. But we have found that the goal is to not just attract them through the CLE, but to then get them involved in committees, because we celebrate our 150th anniversary next year, and if we're to have another 150 years, we must engage young lawyers, and we must engage them in our committees, which is what drives the City Bar's work. We have 150 committees that cover everything from animal law through zoning rights, and we want to have in our committees these young lawyers actively participating, which is one of the reasons we've created a new category of associate or affiliate member. Our committees have roughly 30-some members, and what we've done is create this category so that a senior person in a law firm or an organization can invite a young lawyer, and I encourage them to invite, because I meet with each committee chair, to invite someone who's diverse, and have them come in with the express purpose of working on a project. And that way, when the senior person must rotate off after 3 years, so that's what we do to make sure that there's room for others, the young lawyer who's been brought in as an affiliate member can then step into his or her place. And we have found that we have had a large increase in participation in our committees from not just young lawyers, law students. So we are hoping that, yes, we can keep it up.
So for a young lawyer that isn't part of one of these committees and you want to get them involved, but they're saying, I don't have the time in the day, how do you address that? How do you convince them?
It's not easy. And I think that it's a question of telling them, you need a place outside of work to which to go. And the City Bar is this beautiful building. You walk in and there's all sorts of programs happening at the same time, where you can relate to others in ways that are not demarcated by the work environment. And in fact, anything that you do for a committee or for a program on a volunteer basis is going to be incredibly appreciated. So here you're walking into a place where people are going to thank you for what you're doing. And also into a place where you will get to know the legal community and where you'll have opportunity to meet mentors. So it's not just the free CLE, it's not just the participation on a committee, it is the being part of, and I think Chris expressed it extremely well, the greater legal community.
Can I,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing about the committee system at the city bar, because that was my first involvement with, you know, bar associations, and I just thought it was incredibly valuable. You know, the time commitment is, you know, something that you have to consider. I'm pretty sure our committee met monthly for about 2 hours, so it wasn't, you know, an overwhelming kind of commitment. Although, you know, if you're planning activities outside of the committee meetings, that obviously takes an investment of time. But, you know, I think I joined the LGBT Rights Committee when I was a second-year associate, so, you know, still pretty fresh out of law school, and, you know, I was able to put together a panel about LGBT diversity in New York State, and, you know, we were able to get Judge Kay to moderate it, and, you know, attract several, you know, federal judges to speak on the panel, and, you know, part of that, I think, was having kind of the gravitas of an organization like the City Bar, you know, behind us, you know, who was the second-year associate, you know, kind of putting together this panel with all these big names. But, you know, it was an incredibly valuable and enriching experience, and really offers a way for, you know, people who are just starting out to get involved.
Chris and Lauren, remind me if you are on committees.
Yes.
So tell me about the committee that you're on, or committees. I should say.
Through I'll just use an example, through the New York State Bar Association, actually President Greenberg just established a working group on mental health, I believe it's called. And our group is not, I guess, would you call it a committee? It's more a working group, but it's like a committee. And our task, which we may receive more in the future, but our current task was to address questions about whether or not there should be a mental health question on the New York State bar application. So when someone's getting admitted to the bar, should we be asking questions about their mental health
Right.
status? Did they get treatment, or do they have an issue that might impair their ability to practice law? So that was the question, and then a group of young lawyers, law students, as well as professors from New York law schools, disability rights advocates, so very diverse group, all got together and worked on this, and we put together a report, and we just recently presented it. So just being part of that was great to meet those people, but also do the research and see our work actually do something. Like when we gave the report, 2 days later, the New York legislature proposed a bill to actually remove that question from the bar application. So just to be part of something that actually has an impact on future generations of lawyers was really important to me, and I think it's important to my section that we were involved in it, the young lawyer section, that is. So I hope to be part of something like that more in the future, and I wish I had gotten into it a little bit sooner than I did.
Chris, are you part of any committees?
I'm not.
Tell me why not.
So, part of it's just time. Like, I mean, it's only been maybe three or 4 months, right, so far. But I'll say that I'll share rather how I learned about committees to begin with, right? And that was, I was walking out from a CLE, and there was a committee application form on one of the tables right before you go down the stairs. So I picked it up and said, well, this is pretty interesting, because I'd heard about the committees and things like that before. So I go back to the office and I kind of read through it, and it lists all the different committees. And my first reaction to it is like, whoa, this kind of seems overwhelming. Like, this is a lot of, you know, stuff to get into. Like, and then the next logical step was like to go on the website and see all the different committees, and then you see all the names of the lawyers. Like, he's not lying when he says that there are 30 people on the committees. They're like, whoa, okay, this is really serious. And then so that was what, 2 or 3 things I mentioned so far. So I'll mention 2 more. So after that, when I was at the small law firm symposium, I noticed the tags they gave. There was like, it would have the name and then member, and then it would have the name and committee to designate someone on the committee. So that was the first time I actually saw people who were a part of committees. And now I'm at the place to where I'm kind of, like I have a list of the different committees that I'm kind of interested in, all the people that might be on it, right? And in fact, I should, and this is the last thing I'll mention before I pass it back to you if you have a follow-up. While I was at the Small Law Firm Symposium, actually, I met a woman named Eve Gilligan.
Yes.
Yes,
She's the head of our small law firm
Yeah,
center.
so I just bumped into her, I introduced myself, and she was encouraging me to reach out to her with any questions about the committees, right? Because I think I had mentioned to her a little bit of what I just shared to you guys. So I'm in the process of joining one, right? It's not something that I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. It's kind of one of those things that I'm actually glad that the alternative is I don't know what committees are at all, right? And I think that I find myself onboarding onto that process well, even though it's kind of been a self-directed search or just like serendipity, like seeing that application form and things like that, you know. But it sounds really interesting, and I think it would be a good benefit for me.
So just to bring things back to the kind of general conversation, I want to get to Hank. So the state bar, and we've talked about this before, about there are a lot of problems with attorneys in the state in terms of supply, I guess. So there's a shortage of rural attorneys upstate, and now we have this problem of younger attorneys not really being interested in these bar associations. So they're in danger of, crumbling, basically. Why do you think that is?
Because bar associations haven't reinvented themselves as rapidly as they need to meet the needs of young lawyers. Our technology was stagnant. What we did for too many years was try to expect young lawyers to meet us where my generation, where we live, where we work, what we're interested in, rather than developing services and programs and outreach where they live. Millennial lawyers are the hardest working generation of lawyers in American history. The billable hour demands that are expected of young lawyers today are unlike anything any other generation has been confronted with. I think Chris's point was interesting about committee work. As hard as young lawyers work today, your point as well, Dan, there's a real challenge for them to actually physically be able to get out of an office where they're often expected to bill as many as 2,200 hours a year and travel physically to a program that's held at a bar association. Right. What does that mean for bar associations? And this goes to your point about rural communities as well and lawyers in those areas. Our technology has to change. We have to build what we call at the State Bar Association a digital bar center, a virtual bar center. We have to provide services to young lawyers in their homes, at their workplaces that are meaningful to them, that are valuable to them, that engage their interests. Craig's point about affinity bar associations, some of them, like the one he's been involved with, have been active and vibrant because fundamentally they are providing services and programs that engage the interest of young lawyers. So we at the State Bar Association could not be any prouder of the work that Lauren did, and the importance of it and her work group was that it was not a traditional bar association committee. It wasn't some sleepy group of people who have been meeting for years and years and years with no task, no focus, no concentration. She and her colleagues were a multidisciplinary group from not one section or one committee, but multiple sections. Multiple disciplines were represented, and they addressed an issue of vital interest to young lawyers, especially law students. There are studies that show that as many as 30 to 40% of law students experience depression of a kind and a type that would warrant treatment. But far too many young lawyers are frightened about getting that treatment because they're fearful they may one day be asked a question on a bar admission application that asks whether they actually sought and obtained mental health services, which could have met their needs. Lauren's work group came out with a report. It's valuable, it's important, it's influential, it meets the needs of young law students and young lawyers, and bar associations need to do more of that.
I want to circle back to something you said about a digital bar. What does that look like, and why would that attract more people?
Well, a virtual bar center, a 21st century bar center, is one that again meets young lawyers where they live. And where do they live? They live online. They live in social media. They are listening to podcasts. So more and more young lawyers, as they have to spend more and more time in their law firms billing hours, have less and less time to actually travel to physical spaces to meet other lawyers. So creating bar association meetings and committees that are accessible online in real time, that can be streamed online and live, that people can participate actively and vibrantly around the state in real time rather than physically making the trip. What that requires, and what we're doing at the State Bar Association, is literally reinventing our technological capacity. We had an infrastructure that was designed in the dark ages, 1998. We are in the process of bringing that up to speed. We are in the process of retooling and re-engineering our website. All of our technology has to be improved, all of it. Our communications has to be improved. We have to find ways to provide the kinds of content and information young lawyers want to read. Not what I want them to read, but what they want to read. At the final analysis, what's important, what bar associations have to do, is answer the value equation to the satisfaction of young lawyers.
Right.
You know, there's a myth, and it's an unfortunate myth, and it's wrong and it's not fair, that young lawyers, millennial lawyers, don't join anything. That's ridiculous. They join a million different things. They join Netflix, they join Amazon Prime, they join dating services, and they pay for those services.
Right.
They just haven't been joining bar associations. And bar associations need to recognize that reality and, as I said before, reinvent themselves so we meet their needs.
That kind of brings me to my next topic, and part of it is cost. And I assume, since the attorneys here are involved in bar associations and are presumably have colleagues that are not, what have you heard from people as to why they don't get involved in bar associations? We can start with Chris.
Yeah, so I'll share this. Right after I joined the Bar Association, I thought about calling friends and saying, hey, you want to join the Bar Association too? But I didn't do that. And I can't explain to you why I didn't do that. Maybe it's psychologically you want to test something out first, and maybe what's revealing about that is joining wasn't something that we talked about often while we were on campus, right? It's not the topic that came up at all, you know. The only place that I heard it from was from older lawyers and things like that. So I think that's, even though I myself joined the Bar Association, that might shed some light as to why, you know, some of my other classmates might not have, because it's not top of mind per se, right? And as Hank was alluding to, there are so many things that we can be joining, right? And I think that I know something I've had to develop and strengthen is just my ability to focus, right? And focus comes in the terms of work, you know, in terms of life, whatever you want to talk about. But I think it's relevant in this context because if for young attorneys, the more that they're able to learn, you know, the value of focus and maybe even applying it, then they'll start to look for things like bar associations, perhaps things that can actually really have a tangible effect on their career. As basically any attorney, like a young attorney, right, who's been practicing 10 years or less perhaps, who's talked to me about bar associations, usually says that they wish they joined a little bit earlier, right, if they didn't join really early. So yeah, it's a tough answer. I mean, I don't think there's an easy one, but hopefully I shed a little bit of light on perhaps why.
Dan, can I comment on Chris's
Of course.
statement? And you're absolutely correct. It's one of the reasons why the City Bar has really started to reach out to law schools. And we invite each law school to designate a law school ambassador to serve as someone, as a liaison between the City Bar and the law school. We hold receptions for law students. We held one recently where we had over 800 law students from law schools all over the state show up. And we invite law students to join our committees, because from our point of view, you're absolutely right, the earlier the better. And if we can get you involved in the sort of work, and by the way, the City Bar was thrilled to support the work that Lawrence, a working group, did. It was enormously important. And there are similar projects that are taking place on a daily basis within the 150 committees. So we don't want to have more law students have your experience, to not hear about it
Right.
while in law school. We want them to know about bar associations in general and the City Bar also in particular.
So I haven't been to law school, and I didn't realize that while you're in law school, they don't I guess, prepare you for that kind of thing. Is that the experience that
Well, I
attorneys
can
have?
speak for the young lawyers section. For the New York Bar Association used to have a program called Pathways to the Profession, which they had a staff that would go travel to all New York law schools. I think they still have a bit of that program. Ernesto is the one who's heading it now. He's doing a great job. He's actually the one I went to when I was looking for law students to join that mental health group, and he gave me 2 people who he thought that would be really great at it. But having the boots on the ground at the law schools, I think, is really important. Our section itself also invites law student representatives to be on our executive committee. That said, it's difficult to find people who can take away from their studies to be part of an association that they're not even sure what it's about. So being able to communicate to them the value of being part of this association has always been a struggle for my section. But once you get somebody active involved and give them a task, usually you can rely on them to do it. But yeah, the other piece that I wanted to say is that the Bar Association provides free bar membership to law students while they're in law school. So it's, it gives them sort of a preview, a free preview of what the association's like. And then I believe it's less expensive the first year you're out, and then it kind of goes up after you practice so long. But which I think is a great step because it reduces the cost to students who may not be able to afford it. But I think we need to do a better job of showing the students what the association can offer to get them involved.
Is that part of it? Do bar associations cost too much for an attorney coming out of law school with a mountain of debt? Either Craig or Chris.
I mean, it is a financial burden in a way. I've been lucky that, my personal experience is that the firms that I've been at have always covered the cost of a couple of, I think my current firm will pay for 2 bar memberships, and so it's never had to come out of my own pocket. And I think that's something that I didn't actually learn until, I was a couple months in and looking to renew my membership in the National LGBT Bar Association, and the firm, was like, oh, well, we'll pay for this. You're like, that's a really nice surprise.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge is people need to figure out what kind of the value add is of actually paying the dues and having that membership, because Legal puts on all these programs over the course of the year, most of which are free to people who register because they have sponsorship from firms and whatnot, and so I guess the conundrum is if you can go to these events and not have to pay, then kind of what's the purpose of becoming a member? What is the value add of becoming a member? And I think that's really the point that at least in Legal we're trying to figure out.
So we are out of time, but before we end, given everything that we've heard, I'd love to hear some final thoughts from Roger and Hank. And Roger, you can go first.
I think it's extremely important that bar associations work together, and I can say that the City Bar has been able to work with both the State Bar Association and with the affinity bars very closely on any number of projects. And I think that whatever learning process goes on here is one that we should all share. I know that part of the series of articles that the Law Journal published about bar associations included one on the City Bar's New Lawyer Institute, which is designed to help young lawyers get their first job or improve on the job that they've gotten. And we think it's a model that can be implemented across the board, and we'd be extremely happy to talk to anyone, anyone else who is thinking about, is this something that we could do? Because this is not 1 or 2 bar associations surviving and the rest won't work.
Right.
We need to be in this together.
And I think there might be a value to having those specialized bar associations in the very...
Without question, the City Bar sponsors quarterly breakfasts with affinity bars,
Right.
Where we exchange ideas about how it works for each one of the bar associations and how we can help each other.
Go ahead, Hank.
I can't think of anything bar associations could do right now that would be more important than focus their energies on meeting the needs of young lawyers. My 58 years on the planet, I cannot recall a time when the voice of young lawyers was more desperately needed than right now. We need young lawyers for their wisdom. We need young lawyers for their passion. We need them to educate their communities in which they live about why the rule of law has kept us free for over 200 years. So bar associations, as Roger said, need to work together, but with a laser-like focus on answering the question young lawyers ask, why should I join a bar association? And that question has to be taken seriously and answered thoughtfully, and in a way that satisfies that answer by telling them, how do you, as a young lawyer, build a reputation within the profession? How do you develop networks that will help you build a practice and develop a client base? How can you do the public good like Lauren did with her work group by working on issues that are of vital importance to the community, to the public, to the profession? So I agree with everything Roger said, but most of all bar associations working together have to meet the needs of young lawyers.